Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game So today I got a really fun and really random episode for you guys this evening because I was going through one of my storage closets organizing some of my collection and I came across my unopened copy of Paprium. Since I've been talking about Alejandro and the SuperSEGA FPGA video game trap house that is known as that project, I figured we'd take a look at Alejandro's French cousin Fonzie and go through the French video game trap house, talking about the absolute disaster that was Paprium. And I am one of the few people that actually received a copy of this game back in the day, probably because I had a channel and a few other channels received them as well. But the saga of Paprium is absolutely insane and makes SuperSEGA FPGA look like small potatoes, because at this point in time there's over $1 million of outstanding Kickstarter contributions and other pre-order money that's changed hands, and maybe only 100 people it seems have actually ever received a copy of Paprium, me strangely being one of them. And the entire lead up to this entire project looked absolutely promising. There was so much to see, there was so much hype behind it, the screenshots looked absolutely incredible. They were even quote unquote making their own chip, the Daytonmeister, to basically be able to make the Sega Genesis do more technologically than it ever was able to do before. But the strange thing is, Paprium technically does exist. I have a cartridge for it, other channels receive cartridges for it, even a few collectors got copies as well. And if you go on eBay today, you can buy a sealed copy of this game somewhere between $1,000 to $3,000 depending on the day and how complete and in good of condition it's in. But the reality is, over $1 million of outstanding money is still out there. There is a Kickstarter campaign that people gave money to after the original batch of cartridges never even showed up. I'm not sure how that ever ended up happening, but it is one of those things. So let's go ahead and take a look at Paprium here and talk about the history behind the project. Let's get rid of that ridiculous VHS filter I was playing around with just to make the footage from Paprium look a little bit jankier. Inside this box is what I received in 2021. I remember it was right around Christmas time. I came home, saw a box, opened it up, it was Paprium, had stuff to do, tossed it on a shelf in my closet, and there it has sat for over 4 years. Honestly, this thing has just been hanging out in my house, and I had a very bad taste in my mouth of having received it because I knew a lot of people didn't, and they were out a lot of money and had a lot of disappointment, so I didn't really feel like I wanted to open it. I just tossed it on the shelf and it's hung out there. And the entire saga of Paprium is such a strange one. This game was delayed over and over again, and then Watermelon Games and Fonzie had this entire warehouse party hyping the release and spending an absolute fortune, clearly trying to make this seem like a nightclub, and the game that they brought was an incomplete mess that ran on bare PCBs. I've actually talked to one person that attended the party. There was no gameplay in the build whatsoever, no enemies, just basically some glitchy graphics that had to be reset multiple times, and it would hang and freeze and basically just not function whatsoever. But the weird thing is, the people that have opened their copies of Paprium and have reviewed it, there is a 100% complete game on that cartridge, and apparently it is one of the best beat-em-ups for Sega Genesis. So you can't really say that Paprium was a scam from the beginning. The intention was always to develop a full game and make it one of the best 16-bit beat-em-ups to ever exist, and it seems like they succeeded in that and were able to ship some copies out. And trust me, if you ever received a copy or if you haven't seen a full scan of this little one sheet here in the Paprium case, it's absolutely insane. It's like the rants of a madman talking about PayPal scams and PayPal running away with the money. But at this point in time, one would very well think that that would have been settled and Paprium and Watermelon would have gotten their money back, and it even ends with a joke that is in very bad taste, making you wonder what Fonzie's actually on about. And he has done some interviews. I'll leave a link to this below. It is in French, but it does have English subtitles, and I could not stop and think anything other than the fact that, did Fonzie move to Spain, put on a little bit of weight, and decide to get into the FPGA gaming market? I know it's a joke. I know Fonzie and Alejandro are different people. The Ron Jeremy of Spain here is not the Ron Jeremy of France, but honestly, it's got very similar vibes, and that's the real reason I made this, because I wanted to talk about just how wild it is that these things continue to happen in retro gaming. Because for the few people that did receive Paprium, the idea that there's still $1 million of outstanding money out there. The game was supposed to see ports to PlayStation 4, to Nintendo Switch, to Steam, and as of today, it absolutely just does not exist, and news does not come out about it whatsoever. So there's $1 million in the wind. People have not received their original copies of Paprium on the Sega Genesis or Mega Drive. No one's gotten any ports whatsoever. Probably the amount of cartridges that really exist out in the world, maybe 200, maybe 300, is incredibly impossible to tell. The other reason I decided to do this video is I wanted to see, should I open this thing and actually review it on my beat 'em up series I'm doing now. I considered it on the long list when I first started talking about it, and I just kind of pushed it off, but I'm here to ask you what you guys think. because obviously if you know me and you know my channel, I don't sell anything whatsoever. It just kind of hangs out in my collection, so it seems weird to leave this thing completely unopened and unplayed, but at the same time I would never sell it and try to derive any profit from people out there that are desperate to add it to their collections. And the unfortunate part is what I did get delivered is outstanding as far as the packaging is concerned. This should have gone out to absolutely everyone. People should have gotten their copies. Even if PayPal had taken that money, there should have been a way found around it to be able to deliver what people had paid for, because you spent all this time, money, and energy developing the game. You should have actually shipped it. But then the fact that after all of this happened, there was a Kickstarter campaign to try to rectify the previous wrongs after all of the company's reputation had been completely blown up all over the internet. It really does make me wonder how people were willing to give $900,000 to this project after the initial round, because it was a complete disaster. It was $973,000 to be exact. If you think about all of the money from those pre-orders of the original Paprium that were never delivered, you're well in excess of $1 million of missing money, and only a handful of people on the internet that actually have a copy of Paprium, myself included being one of them. And that, again, is just such a wild story, and this entire Paprium tale keeps getting weirder and weirder, including a hoax where somebody said they found an entire stash of Paprium games, as well as the arcade sticks in some French warehouse somewhere. That ended up being a complete fabrication, and they just said they wanted to get Paprium back in the public consciousness. And since we've been talking about Super Sega so often, it seemed like the perfect time to address the situation and ask the internet and the general question out there, where in the hell is Paprium? Where are the ports? Where's the $1 million? Where is everything that people pledged money for and pre-ordered back in the day? Because I think I pre-ordered this thing maybe in 2017, and as of today, in the end of January 2025, it is still one of the few copies out there in the wild, and that's absolutely insane. We're talking almost 8 years at this point in time for something to actually show up on the market. And honestly, I wish people would give me $1 million interest-free loan for 8 years and I didn't have to deliver anything on it. So go look at Kickstarter today. My new beat 'em up is going to be funded soon. It's called Paprium. That's with an F, not a P, and it's coming in 2069. But all jokes aside, it's too bad they didn't find a stash of these in a warehouse somewhere. That way, at least a few more copies would have gotten out into the wild. And again, it seems like pretty much YouTubers and some news actually got these things. I don't know many people that were just general gamers that actually received them. My copy is 850 out of 1988. So did 850 actually get shipped? Did they just pick random copies, put numbers on them, and send them out into the world? Anything is possible. This could be like copy number 6 that actually existed, and they just decided to write a random number on it to make it seem like there were more out there. And again, the fact that this is still an outstanding issue over 7 years later, almost 8 at this point in time, getting really close to that 8th anniversary. If Paprium was a child, it would basically be in like 2nd grade at this point in time. And even still, with all of this press and all of this news, Fonzie just seems to have gone completely missing with $1 million worth of money, and there's so many other stories out there that really aren't verifiable, so they really aren't worth talking about on the channel. But Paprium is a real game, and it does exist. It just doesn't exist for everyone who actually paid for it. You'll see here this cartridge has never been opened, and I will give them credit. The actual pill design here, as far as the entire Paprium concept is concerned, is a really fun kind of angle, but it's just been sitting here in foil this entire time, doing absolutely nothing, because I never actually expected to get a copy of the game. I knew full well all the drama behind it. I wrote my $100 or however much it cost off and just decided it's not coming, just forget about it. But then of course it did arrive, then nobody else got their copies. Then they went to a crowdfunding source to try to remanufacture this, and apparently all that PayPal money that PayPal quote-unquote stole has never been returned. And I'm pretty sure PayPal can't just take your money and say, you know what, we don't trust you, and we're going to tie it up forever. If they were to do that, there's a very easy thing to rectify that. You hire a lawyer and you have them approach PayPal and do a put up or shut up moment. But instead they went to something like Kickstarter, and you'll see here they raised $895,569, and the last update was June 3rd, 2024. This project has not been heard from since. It has not been seen. It was supposed to go to Switch, Steam, PlayStation, Dreamcast, as well as the Mega Drive, its original platform, and nothing has happened whatsoever. So where in the hell did Paprium go, and should I open it up? I'll just drag a cleaver across it, give you an idea what it would be like to open that. So you vote down below in the comments, open and review it on the channel, or just leave it sealed. Whatever I get the most answers for, I will do. If I get more open comments, I'll open it up. If I get more sealed comments, I will leave it on the shelf. But again, I'm never going to sell this thing. I'm not in it to profit. I just like collecting stuff, and it's been hanging out ever since. And the worst part about the entire Paprium saga is it shouldn't have happened that way, because they had an absolutely amazing idea and an amazing product that a few people got, but it seems like their eyes are bigger than their stomach when it actually came to manufacturing these things, and that is why Paprium has burned an absolute metric crap ton of people, and today is gone missing with over $1 million, which makes SuperSEGA FPGA's video game Trap House look like small potatoes. But again, I do think Alejandro and Fonzie look similar, so maybe they're one and the same, and they have something to do with each other. And if you can't tell that I'm joking, I very clearly am. Leave me a comment down below. Did you order Paprium back in the day? Did you Kickstarter, or are you just watching the video because it seems like fun? Let me know if I should open it or not, and I will see you guys next time, maybe with a review. Bye-bye.